Today is our 10th and final Peace Sunday, completing our look at the great peacemakers' true stories from around the world. Our focus this Sunday will continue to be on leaders caring for the planet. Nader Khalili, an architect dedicated to sustainable and inexpensive building materials, and Wangari Maathai, Nobel Peace winner, dedicated to restoring the earth through planting trees. Much of the dialogue about the leaders is taken directly from the book. As strong and stately as the trees she plants, Kenya's Dr. Wangari Maathai is the first environmentalist and the first African woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Following her dream of a better world, Maathai has led her Greenbelt movement to plant more than 30 million trees and provide income for more than 8,000 households, despite being imprisoned and beaten for defending nature and human rights. Maathai courageously continued to plant seeds of peace. In the shadow of majestic Mount Kenya, Wangari Maathai was born in 1940 to peasant farmers in Nari, Kenya. Alongside her mother, Maathai spent the early part of her childhood doing chores traditionally done by women in Kenya, working the fields, gathering firewood, fetching water, and so on. Such tasks might have occupied the rest of Maathai's life had her brother not suggested that she attend school, a very uncommon activity for rural Kenyan girls at that time. Excelling in school, she received a scholarship to study in the U.S. at Mount St. Scholastica College in Kansas. After earning bachelor's and master's degrees in biological sciences, Maathai continued her studies in Germany and at the University of Nairobi in Kenya. There in 1971, she earned a PhD in anatomy, making her the first woman in Central and East Africa to earn a doctoral degree. In little time, she became the University of Nairobi's first female department chair, and in the early 1970s was elected as chairperson of the Environmental Liaison Center. She recalled, quote, "My background as a biological scientist and daughter of a peasant farmer provided the seed for growth and long-term commitment to the environment," unquote. After marrying businessman Wangari Maathai, with whom she would have 3 children, Maathai helped her husband campaign for his election to Parliament. During this campaign, she learned that the top concerns of villagers was lack of employment. After her husband was elected, she decided to address this concern and work to provide jobs for his constituents. To do this, and also improve Kenya's environment, Maathai launched a tree planting program that set up its first nursery in her family's backyard. However, her husband thought that the nursery was unsightly and doubted that the program would ever succeed. Over time, their relationship deteriorated, and he divorced her on the grounds that she was too educated, too strong, too stubborn, and too hard to control. Yes. Undeterred, Maathai forged ahead, inspired by the trees around her. She said, quote, "The tree becomes a symbol of hope. The tree is living. It is stately. It is beautiful. It inspires. It grows upward. It brings back life. So even by starting with a simple step of just digging a hole and planting a tree, It's like you are planting hope in your life and for your descendants. And you're saying to yourself, I can always start again, unquote. Her tree planting program found a new home with the National Council of Women of Kenya. And during its first ceremony, 7 trees were planted, each in honor of an outstanding Kenyan. As the trees grew, so did the program. And in 1977, it was officially founded as the Green Belt Movement. The movement got its name from a tree planting strategy for public land, in which seedlings were planted in rows of at least 1,000 to form green belts that provided shade and windbreak, facilitated soil conservation, improved the beauty of the landscape, and created habitat for wildlife. These green belts also helped women who in Kenya are usually the first to feel the strain of deforestation. Because women do most of the farming, they experience firsthand how deforestation causes soil erosion and leads to lower crop yields. Furthermore, as the forests recede from the villages, women must walk farther to collect firewood for cooking. When firewood becomes scarce, women are often forced to change their family's diet, which sometimes results in malnutrition. To reduce the country's problems of soil erosion and malnutrition, the Green Belt movement initially involved women and later men as well, planting both indigenous and fruit trees. To compensate them for their efforts, the participants were paid approximately 10 cents US for each tree they planted that survived. They were allowed to cut some mature trees for firewood, charcoal, building material, etc. But every tree they cut, they were encouraged to plant 2 more. Explaining the movement's purpose, Maathai said, quote, "It was our intention to plant 15 million trees throughout the country, since that was Kenya's population at the time, and our motto was, 1 person, 1 tree." Hearing this plan, forestry professionals burst into laughter, believing that uneducated, largely illiterate women could never accomplish such an ambitious goal. However, Maathai and her foresters without diplomas had the last laugh, not only achieving their goal, but surpassing it and expanding the movement to neighboring countries. In addition to helping people restore rural environments, Maathai also took action to protect urban open space. For example, in 1989, she launched a campaign to save Uhuru Park, Nairobi's only remaining park, when dictatorial President Daniel Moi announced his plan to build a 62-story skyscraper flanked by a 4-story statue of himself in the park. This project would have severely damaged the park and plunged Kenya further into debt because Moi planned to borrow the building funds. When Maathai and her supporters gathered in the park and protested this project, they were harassed, beaten, and jailed. Additionally, Maathai was called a barrage of insulting names and threatened with mutilation. Her response was, quote, "Fortunately, my skin is thick like an elephant's. The more they abused and ridiculed me, the more they hardened me," unquote. Ultimately, due to the protests, the lenders withdrew the funds for the project and the park was spared. In 1992, Maathai returned to Uhuru Park and demonstrated with mothers whose sons were imprisoned for seeking more democratic rights for Kenyans. Declaring the park Freedom Corner, Maathai stayed there with the mothers for 4 days. On the 5th day, armed security personnel moved in, beating Maathai and many of the other protesters so badly that they had to be hospitalized. How did Maathai manage to keep going? She explains, quote, "The clarity of what you ought to do gives you the courage, removes the fear," unquote. 1 year later, Maathai rejoiced with the mothers when their sons were finally released from prison. Following the demise of Moi regime, Maathai found herself in a very different role. In 2002, she was elected by 98% of the vote to represent her home region in Parliament, and was appointed as the Assistant Minister for Environment and Natural Resources. Initially, she was not very interested in getting into Parliament, but soon realized that if she was going to achieve real and lasting change for Kenya, she could be more effective from within the government. Ironically, during her inauguration, she recognized her police escorts. They were her former jailers. In her new role, while traveling to visit her constituents, Maathai received word that she had won the 2004 Nobel Peace Prize. Her reaction, quote, "I could hardly believe it. My heart filled with emotion, bringing tears to my eyes as I faced that mountain that had so inspired me over the years. I am still pinching myself and telling myself that this is not a dream." To celebrate, unquote, to celebrate the wonderful news, she planted a tree and encouraged all friends of nature to do the same. In awarding the prize to Maathai, Professor Ole Mios, chairman of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, said, quote, "The Norwegian Nobel Committee has for a long time maintained that there are many different paths to peace. Environmental protection has yet become another path to peace," unquote. With her commanding presence and radiant smile, Maathai accepted the honor humbly, stating, quote, "Although this prize comes to me, it acknowledges the work of countless individuals and groups across the globe. They work quietly, often without recognition, to protect the environment, promote democracy, and defend human rights, and ensure equality between women and men. By so doing, they plant seeds of peace," unquote. Elsewhere, Maathai said, quote, "Some people have asked what the relationship is between peace and environment. And to them I say that many wars are fought over resources, which are becoming increasingly scarce across the earth. If we did a better job of managing our resources sustainably, conflicts over them would be reduced. So protecting the global environment is directly related to securing peace." From its tenuous start in her own backyard, Maathai's work has grown solid roots and sturdy branches, extending throughout the world. Her Greenbelt movement has established more than 6,000 tree nurseries and has planted more than 30 million trees. In addition, it has provided employment for more than 80,000 people and carries out its mission in more than 30 African countries, the US, and Haiti. Through the movement's success, Maathai realized her lifelong dream. She shared, quote, "All my life, I have been trying to show how the earth is central to our lives. So my dream is for us to return to the earth, her cloak of green vegetation, to give her back what she once had." From Kenya to Kansas and many places in between, Dr. Wangari Maathai cultivated environmental sustainability and improved people's quality of life. In doing so, she made the world a better place by planting seeds of peace. Wangari Maathai died on September 25, 2011, of complications arising from ovarian cancer while receiving treatment at Nairobi Hospital. Her remains were cremated and buried at the Wangari Maathai Institute for Peace and Environmental Studies in Nairobi. We will now hear a song about Wangari Maathai, followed by a few more famous quotes.
"30 years ago, in the country of Kenya, they were cutting down trees till very few remained. The topsoil disappeared, the land became a desert. Life was hard to sustain. The women of the villages would go in search of firewood. Branches were scarce in this ocean of sand. One woman, Wangari, saw this taking place. She said, we must take care of our land. So she planted a tree and planted another, in hopes she might see a little change begin. She also saw before her a giant undertaking, so she organized her friends. They were part of the movement, recovering their land, bringing back the roots of Kenya from the sand. They were moving to make their homeland green, women planting trees. With a bag of seeds, she showed her neighbors about planting more trees, an act for which she paid them a small sum, a giant leap. Soon Wangari organized the women of the Kenyan nation. They were part of the movement, recovering their land, bringing back the roots of Kenya from the sand. They were moving to make their homeland green, women planting trees. And something else was happening, empowerment and strength. This was threatening to the men who made the rules. Wangari and her women friends were making real changes, so the policemen came and broke their tools. But they never broke her spirit, even though they tried. They accused her of subversion. They arrested her for crimes she carried on. In spite of them, kept on planting trees, saplings of pride and possibility. They were part of the movement, recovering their land, bringing back the roots of Kenya from the sand. They were moving to make their homeland green, women planting trees. 30 years later, in the country of Kenya, 30 million new trees under African skies. Wangari is the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. She began the movement, recovering her land, bringing back the roots of Kenya from the sand. She was moving to make her homeland green, women planting trees. They are part of the movement, recovering their land, bringing back the roots of Kenya from the sand. They are moving to make their homeland green, women planting trees, women planting